So here is the Suunto Vertical 2. I've been using and testing this watch for well over a month now. Yes, this review process has taken a lot longer than usual, and you'll see why soon enough. Now, my previous experience with Suunto was with their entry-level Run model, and the Vertical 2 is an entirely different beast. This is Suunto's premium, do-it-all outdoor adventure watch, and, well, let's just say I think I get it now. So, as I just hinted at, I did encounter something I've never seen on a watch I've reviewed in the 2.5 years I've been doing this, which is also why it took me so long to get this review put together and out to you. So you definitely don't want to miss that. Hint, it's in the performance section. Definitely watch the review all the way through if you want to learn all about the Suunto Vertical 2, but if you are hunting a certain bit of information, then please use the chapters to guide you. Suunto did send me this device, but other than that, they have no input on my time with the watch or any advance notice of what I'll be covering in this review. Now with that disclaimer out of the way, let's jump in. When you unbox the Vertical 2, you'll see you get a nice presentation of the watch body and bands separate from each other. You get some startup docks, which contain some cute little stickers. There's a custom charger that connects via USB-C. There's another thick little safety booklet in about 100 different languages as well. Overall, it's a very nice and on-brand presentation from the Finnish company. The Suunto Vertical 2 comes in 2 different trims, stainless steel and titanium, and a variety of different colored silicone straps. What I have here is a stainless steel version with a pine green strap. Now the MSRP of the stainless steel version is $599 US, while you need to fork out another $100 for the titanium version, which retails at $699 US. The diameter here is just under 49 millimeters and the height is 13.5 millimeters. The straps are silicone and 22 millimeters in width, and I have to be honest, the pine green is just kind of not my thing, but of course you can easily swap with any other 22 millimeter strap you may have. The watch is water resistant to 100 meters, so you can use it for both swimming and snorkeling. The Vertical 2 also comes with 32 gigabytes of storage, so you can get it loaded up with plenty of maps. What you notice when you first see the Vertical 2 is that the Vertical series has done away with the MIP display from the original model and is now replaced with a larger and much brighter AMOLED option. You may be thinking that for an outdoor adventure watch, the battery is a non-negotiable, and AMOLED and long battery life just don't go together, and well, you'd be wrong here, and we're going to cover that soon. The display of the Vertical 2 is sapphire and extremely vibrant. At 466 by 466 pixels, the display also looks plenty sharp. Now, I said you notice a vibrant display when you first see the Vertical 2. Well, you notice the heft of the watch when you first pick up the Vertical 2. This thing, and particularly the stainless steel version, is a tank. While the bezel only protrudes from the lens the tiniest fraction of a millimeter, it actually continues down the side of the body a fair bit. Now add to that the stainless steel backplate and you get a very sturdy, albeit heavy, metal sandwich of a watch. The stainless steel version is listed at 87 grams and weighed in at 88 grams on my scale. If you spring the extra money for titanium, you'll trim down to 74 grams. And of course you can lighten up just a bit more with a nylon strap if that's your style. But make no mistake, this is not the sort of watch that will just disappear on your wrist during a long run. This is the sort of watch that will reliably take any beating that the outdoors can dish out while you're out on the trails. The one last hardware feature to mention is of course the addition of the built-in LED flashlight. If you watch the channel regularly, you know I'm a fan of flashlights and watches, and Suunto now has a great one built into their outdoor adventure watch. The light has 4 different brightness levels with the white light and also a lower setting in red to give you 5 total options to light up your night. Now I want to get into what is my favorite aspect of the Vertical 2, and that is the design. Suunto has a fantastic ability to create understated and mature design watches that look capable and sporty while not going over the top with design elements or branding. You get a small Suunto logo that faces you around the 6 o'clock mark on the watch body. The bezel alternates between a fluted design on the left side of the watch with smooth areas that highlight the flashlight, middle button, and Suunto logo. The fluted areas on the right side of the watch can act as a tactile guide for your finger to follow to be sure you're pressing the correct button without having to even look down at the watch. Definitely a thoughtful design choice. Speaking of those buttons, the digital dial has been replaced with a 3-button layout. Now, at first, I just didn't get this layout. If you're going to commit to a button layout, you'd want at least 4 buttons, right? You want an up button, down button, start button, and stop button. Suunto definitely gets the most out of the 3-button setup by allowing their buttons to perform multiple functions. For example, the middle button will select options or start activities with a press, then also function as the universal back button in any situation with a hold. Once you get the flow of the UI, the 3-button setup is an elegant and simple choice that works quite well. And of course, this ability to control all functions with buttons lends itself to an equally smooth experience even if you're outdoors with gloves on. Another part of the design that is also functional is the flat lay back panel. Along with the redesigned optical heart rate sensor, the flatter back panel is designed to create more contact with your wrist to improve the reliability of wrist-based heart rate readings, which has historically been a pain point for Suunto customers. And that is something we're about to put to the test later on in this video. Now, moving on from the hardware design to the software design, I really appreciate what Suunto has done in this space as well. From the home screen, you can either push the up button or pull down from the top to access your list of sports activities. The ones that have been recently used will be listed first, and then you can access your entire list up above that. There are 150 plus activities, from the basics like runs, rides, swims, all the way to the abstract like mermaiding and chores. So if you want to know how much training load your last aerial cosplay accumulated, don't worry, Suunto's got your back. If you either push the down button or pull up from the bottom, that will get you to your list of widgets starting with the control panel. You'll see all of your training related widgets as well as day-to-day widgets, things like weather, phone notifications, and media controls. You can dive into any of these to see additional detail as well. You can swipe from the right side or hit the middle button to access your pinned widget, which of course you can choose whichever we feel is most useful. You can customize the long press action of the top and bottom buttons. Now I've got the alarm clock as my top button as I change my wake up time based on the run duration I have each morning, and I change it on a daily basis. And I have the flashlight set to the bottom button hold, and I like that as well. Now finally, the middle button will get you directly into settings when held down as well, and this is not a customizable function. Suunto uses a clear, well-sized font that makes reading information on your watch easy even at a quick glance. Did you hear that, Coros? Well-sized fonts make reading information easy. Take notes. Suunto also does a great job of using color to illustrate different functions and arrows that will guide you to the correct buttons, which again make rapid navigation a breeze. Like, check out this alarm. Yellow is up top and will snooze the alarm, red is down below and will turn off the alarm. It's great design and it's very functional. I definitely say that Suunto has done a lot with this 3-button design, and it all flows very well once you're used to it. Let's move on to performance now, and we can divide that into 3 parts: battery life, day-to-day wellness tracking, and sports performance. First up, battery life. This thing is an absolute battery beast. The official rating from Suunto is 20 days in smartwatch mode, 40 days in standby time mode, which would not have the heart rate sensor active. In GPS activities, you get 60 hours in multiband mode with always on display on, 65 hours if you turn off that always on display. And if you drop down to single band, you could get 70 hours with always on display on and 75 hours if you turn that off. This thing can stretch all the way to 250 hours in power saving GPS mode. It is most definitely built for the long haul, no matter what your demands are. In my real world testing, I get a whopping 19.5 days battery life before I finally had to charge it at 3%, and that included almost daily GPS activities. And once I did have to throw it on the charger, it took just an hour 45 minutes to charge from 3% all the way back up to 100. So the Vertical 2 outperformed the already insane battery life promises on the spec sheet. So yeah, Vertical 2 puts to rest any worry about battery life with an AMOLED display. Hey, real quick, I want to take a moment to mention that if these action shots are looking pretty cool in this video, it's because I'm using my Hover Air X1 Pro Max drone to film them. I have a small feature in my recent Mount to Coast H1 review video with some more details, so be sure to check that out. But basically, this drone is a super easy to use flying action camera that can shoot in up to 8K resolution, get a ton of different shots with pre-programmed flight modes. You have the option of using your own joystick controls, controlling it with your phone, or just using the on-device controls without anything else. I mean, it's cool. I love mine. I'll throw a link in the description with whatever's the best deal they're currently running. All right, back to it. Okay, next let's tackle day-to-day wellness tracking performance. The Vertical 2 seemed spot on with everyday heart rate readings when compared to my other trackers like my Garmin Forerunner 970, Amazfit TRX3 Pro, and Coros Pace 4. However, I found that the HRV readings at night were a bit lower than other readings. And not by much, like typically 5 to 10 milliseconds, but it was consistently lower than other trackers were getting, and those other trackers were consistent with each other, so I kind of give them the benefit of the doubt. Another small gripe is that the Vertical 2 would very frequently miss wake events during the night. I would get up once or twice during the night to use the restroom and not have any wake events recorded. However, overall the sleep time, wake time, and overall duration seemed quite accurate. Now finally, let's take a look at the sports performance in a few runs to see how the GPS and optical heart rate sensor performed. So normally when I do the performance section, I jump right into analyzing fit files for runs, lifts, or any other tracked activities. Before I do that, I do want to provide some context. As I mentioned at the start of this video, I experienced something I never have before while reviewing a watch or fitness tracker. So I recorded quite a few activities using the Vertical 2 over the last month plus at this point. And when I threw my fit files into an analyzer, I noticed I consistently had low average heart rate from the Vertical 2 compared to other watches. And this was odd because I didn't recall low readings during activities when I looked at my watch. Checking the Suunto app as well as Strava where I uploaded the activity, I had data that didn't match the fit file, so something wasn't adding up. It didn't make sense. The fit file analyzer only reads the data that the watch has generated in the fit file. So digging in further, I found the FAQ on the analyzer specifically mentioned Suunto as being troublesome from time to time, so I tried multiple other analyzer sites and got the same low readings. So I finally found the culprit when I selected show zeros on the fit files. This shows the Vertical 2 outputting a 0 reading every other second during high intensities. Now I checked old fit files from when I tested the Suunto Run and double checked, and this never occurred from that watch. I also checked other reviewers' videos, which I never do before I publish my own review, so I'm not influenced by what they put out, and didn't see anything like that mentioned at all. I even reached out to Suunto to see if they would comment or explain what was going on, but I didn't hear back. I then went back and retested with runs later in the day. I typically run very early in the morning before the sun comes up and it's very cold, which can create a challenging environment for optical sensors. So I thought maybe if I ran later in the day when it's warmer, but same result. Now, right when I was ready to say, well, what the hell? That's when Suunto released their early January update. So this is January 2026 when I'm making this video, which claimed large improvements to heart rate sensor accuracy. Now, great. I mean, Vertical 2 is not brand new by the time I'm reviewing it. It had been out for a while, so I figured any sort of bugs would be worked out, but now I get to go through and test it again for a third time. So that more or less catches us up to most recent tests and gets us into our normal fit file analysis. So why tell this whole story? Well, for one, to explain why this review took me months to complete, and also because it was my honest experience. I think it's important that this is part of the video to be transparent with my reviews, so you know when you're tuning into my channel, you're getting the full truth of what I experience when I'm using a watch or whatever type of piece of hardware. So let's jump in, see how the watch performed after the updates that Suunto pushed out in early January 2026. Okay, so this is a workout that I did. I had TRX3 Pro on one wrist, I had Vertical 2 on the other wrist, I had the Apex 4 reading off of the arm-based heart rate as well as a foot pod, and I had the 970 reading off of the HRM 600, the Forerunner 970 that is. So we had a whole bunch of testing going on, and this is where things just didn't quite add up for me. So we're only going to look at the heart rate here. I want to do it pretty quick. This is before the update was pushed out for the Vertical 2. And you can just see here, right, our average is at 126.7. Everyone else is at 158, 159, 160, you know, all within a very close range. And what you could see here, well, for one, the Vertical 2 is just reading a little bit lower when we're getting those data points. So it's not performing great on these intervals anyways, but when we go and we hit show 0, we see that, let's zoom in here, every other second we're getting a readout of 0. And you could see, if you look in the top right here, if I'm moving the mouse just a little bit, going second by second, getting a reading, getting a zero, getting a reading. And this is the rate of data capture. So it's not that if you looked at the watch, you wouldn't be seeing it go 0, 148, 0, 150. It doesn't do that. It's showing you a smooth amount of data. So I guess, I mean, in a way, if you're only looking at the Suunto app or looking at Strava, you're not going to see those zeros, but it's recording at a lower rate. And I'm unsure why they did that, if this was part of them trying to fix their heart rate algorithm. All the other watches I was using here, though, you could see none of the others have zeros in here. And the reason I think is kind of troubling is it's only happening in times where the heart rate sensor could struggle, right? As the interval is picking up, as it's kind of reaching its peak, but for sure as it's picking up, right? And I mean, here it's just almost all the time. So it's not something that it's always reading at a lower rate, but it seems like whenever something challenging would happen, I don't know if it's just like taking 2 data points and then just keeping one to kind of always have an average going or something like that to kind of smooth it out so it's not jumping all over. I don't know the technical reason they decided to do that, but it does seem like an intentional thing. So let's take a look at what happens after this, after the January update, and take a look there. Okay, so taking a look after the update now, I did the same type of workout. We hit the intervals. I wasn't quite as loaded up with devices here. I had pace 4 in the hand, optical heart rate on the left upper arm, as well as vertical 2 on the left wrist, and then Forerunner 970 on the right wrist. So we're using wrist reading for the Forerunner 970. The vertical 2's in blue here, and you can see we're still struggling on the increase of the first interval. It does better here. I mean, it does really good rising up and declining here, and then kind of falls a little bit short here. But I want to show 2 important things here. One, if you look at zeros, there are no longer any zeros here. So it's not sampling at a lower data rate any longer. As far as I can tell, this is the raw fit file. Nothing's done to it. There's no more zeros being reported. And you can see the average is also appropriate, right? 155.9, so basically 156, 157, 158-ish. But the one thing I do want to point out, you can see the vertical 2 never hits the full peak of my heart rate during these intervals. I'm up around 176, but I'm stuck around 171, 172. Same thing here. Rises up, stays around 173, 172, whereas I'm up at like 178. So let's take a look down at cadence. You could see here as I'm hitting the intervals, I'm up at like 86, 87. And if we do a little quick mathing, we see that that's around a 172 full cadence. What you're going to get when you actually see the the cadence readout on a watch. That's how many steps per minute. And basically what happened is, as we get to the top of the interval here, the watch got cadence locked, unfortunately. And this is something, it happens with wrist-based optical heart rate sensors from time to time. I literally had it happen just the other day on my Garmin Forerunner 970, which is a fantastic heart rate sensor, but it happened just on a steady state run for no reason during a warm-up. It was reading me at 170 instead of down in the 130s where I should have been. So it does happen. It's a shame it happened during this run, but it did. So that's the data we have. So that's the data you see. And for the rest of the readouts here, everything looks pretty good, right? If you look at cadence, everything is matching up. If you look at speed, again, everything's pretty much matching up. Everything's looking good. Distance, we have really the same readouts. Everything is in agreement. Oh, we can also take a look at the battery discharge here, around 2% per hour, 50 hours. So looking pretty good there. And finally, we could take a look at GPS, but again, I mean, we're using dual frequency. I keep this in the higher accuracy mode, and this is about what you expect. I run in non-challenging environments for the most part, and you'd expect everything on top of it, on top of each other, and that's exactly what you're seeing here. So overall, very good. Much better performance interval-wise. No longer having the lower data sampling rate. The only issue here being is that it did get cadence locked at the top of the intervals. But again, that's something that can just happen. I'm not going to hold it too hard against them, but it does kind of sit in the back of your mind that this is a company that's had some issues with their heart rate sensors in the past, and you just kind of hope between this, the data rate sampling, the cadence lock, that there's not anything else that you're going to have to deal with when getting this watch. But I would say I'm fairly confident that that update fixed a lot of what was going on, and I'm pretty happy with the performance since then. While I definitely want to keep this review focused on the watch itself, you will be using a Suunto app to manage your training, so I want to give a little bit of time to that as well. While the mobile app can appear a bit simple at first glance, there's actually a ton of depth to what you can access and do with it. At first glance, you have your dashboard, which shows your latest activity, as well as a series of widgets that cover both training and wellness. These basically act as shortcuts to jump to other parts of the app and will open full-size graphs when you follow them. You can also see a list of activities if you use the top tab, and if you had friends, which I surely do not, then you can see friends' activities here as well. There's definitely some social aspects to the app as well, like the friends list, and there's also badges, but it's definitely not the focus of the app, and it's definitely not even a big consideration of the app. It kind of seems like an add-on. Now, moving along to the calendar tab, you get your diary to start, which summarizes your activities over a given time period. If you go to the My Plan, you can find some pre-made training plans for a variety of pursuits. These do get customized after answering a series of questions, although unfortunately they're all set to 10 weeks in duration, which is just too short for any kind of actual race prep. The next area of the app is the training zone, and this is where you can really dive deep into your stats. You can see information on your recent training, your longer term progress, your recovery metrics, your daily health metrics, and a huge table of stat summaries. And finally, you have navigation, which is where you can see a heat map of your activities and where you can make routes that can be sent to your watch. Now, there is no onboard routing capability on the Vertical 2, but on the other hand, the mapping and navigation experience is extremely smooth and fluid. Now, that's not everything. Returning to the home page, you can see your device by touching the icon up top, and there you can make your own structured workouts, adjust some settings, customize sports modes as well. You also get access to the Suunto Plus store here, which is where you can get apps made by Suunto, such as the highly regarded Zone Sense. You can get apps from Suunto official partners like Training Peaks, Stride, and Core. And there's even apps made by the Suunto community, like a Parkrun QR code app. So overall, the Suunto mobile app is very complete, and some of my only complaints are that the design is kind of a bit vanilla compared to the nicely stylized and vibrant UI of the watch itself. And I'll also say I wish that Suunto provided a web dashboard to access all of this in-depth data. A tiny phone screen is just not the best way to take in this amount of data. Okay, to keep this moving and start to wrap up, here are some things that stood out to me over my time with the Vertical 2 that made my like and dislike list. As always, let's start with the bad news first. I, of course, need to hit on the biggest one first, and that is the performance of the heart rate sensor during interval workouts. Now, pretty much no watch is going to nail heart rate during intervals with a wrist-based optical sensor, but others do perform comparatively better. Now, with that said, I'm so glad that Suunto issued an update that turned out to be very timely, so I was able to retest the watch after the update. The performance was a big improvement, but it's still not quite up to par with other top-of-the-line watches. This could be due to the overall heft of the device causing more movement on my wrist, which led to cadence lock. But with the history of Suunto and poor heart rate accuracy, it is still something to note and to be aware of. Now, moving along, I dislike the way that activities are organized and function on the watch. To me, this is like one of the few things that is just not intuitive about their UI. There's a basic mode for each sport, but then you could also select other options like interval run or power run. Or when you select them, they'll show in your bottom list of recent activities, but then they also disappear from the main activity listing. Oh, and if you think your structured workouts that you've made would show up as an interval run, you'd be wrong. You need to select basic, then go down to the Suunto Plus section, and your structured workout is under the guide section. Now, mind you, when you create the structured workout, it is under the interval workout section in the mobile app, and everything about that page says interval workout, but it's not listed as an interval workout. So yeah, it's just a little wacky, it's not too intuitive. My next dislike is that there's no differentiation between activities and general day-to-day usage when it comes to tones and sounds. So the watch is either beeping every time a phone notification goes to the watch, which is unbearably annoying, or you have to live with only having vibrations during your runs. So when you've left the desired heart rate zone or pace or interval is about to start or end, you don't really know what you're getting a vibration for, and it's kind of hard to figure out what's what, so you're always looking at your watch. It would be great if you could separate those out. Now, I didn't cover much hiking or trail running in this video, but if you're considering this watch, you're likely to find yourself on a trail or two. And during navigation, trails only show at 500 feet and closer in scale. So if you want to zoom out to see where your trail is headed further out, you lose the entire view of the trail. You need to just stay zoomed in and just pan a lot to see down the trail. Okay, next one on the list. While you have plenty of storage to load up your maps for hiking, you can't use a single megabyte of that storage for onboard music. Now, we know that major music companies only like to work with the big boys like Garmin, but being able to at least play your own MP3s directly from the watch would be better than nothing, and this functionality is on pretty much all other brands. And finally, while I love the overall design of this watch, this thing just sits so tall on the wrist. And the thing is, the overall height isn't that much different than other full-size sports watches I have, but the fact that the bezel has almost no slant to it makes it just look like a slab, like I've just got this giant metal Oreo cookie on my wrist. Okay, those are mostly nitpicks, but enough with that. Let's move on to the things I like and love about this watch, and there's a lot to love about the Vertical 2. Let's kick off the list with the just overall design aesthetic. I know I just said it looks very tall, like an Oreo cookie, and it does from the side. It really does. But honestly, the overall design is just amazing. I think I prefer the hardware design language of Suunto over any of the major sports watch manufacturers. Garmin, Coros, Polar, Amazfit. This thing just looks great. I mean, just maybe put a few slants on it so it's not quite as tall looking, but whatever. Now, I'll also say the UI aesthetic and ease of use for most things, sports menus notwithstanding, is just great. The use of color and good font choices to direct the user's attention to the right places is also very well done. Once you get the hang of the button functions, you could really fly through the menus to get where you need to go. Now, in that same vein, I'll also give a shout out to the buttons themselves. They're not only easy to find when using the watch, but the press of the button is just great. There's a great tactile response, there's no mushiness to any of the buttons, and they're very consistent to use. They're a great way to navigate and use the watch. And finally, I'll say that I appreciate the battery life on this thing. It just lasts forever. The fact that you could go through and do a 100-mile race and not have any worry if you're gonna have your battery last the whole time is amazing. And the fact that you could do that all with an AMOLED screen and use always on display with barely any penalty on the battery, I mean, really great stuff they did here with the battery life. The Vertical 2 is a premium sports watch that is built for the trails, built for outdoors, built for adventure, with a battery life that definitely won't let you down no matter what challenge you're tackling. It is solid, it is robust, it is durable. The Suunto experience is well thought out and complete, although there are some small areas to improve upon. While it looks like the recent update has improved the heart rate sensor accuracy, it still does not quite match up with other top brands with on-the-wrist accuracy. So if you're looking for a watch that can go the distance, no matter how far that distance is, I still think the Vertical 2 deserves to be on your very short list of top considerations. But what do you think? Does the Vertical 2 check enough boxes to be your next go-to adventure watch? Are you going to finally sign up for that 100-mile race that you've been eyeing now that you have your watch selection sorted out? Let me know in the comment section down below, and as always, I'm Dave and this is Dave Does Fitness. Have an awesome day and stay fit.